Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about doing the right thing. I'll have more on that in just a moment. There is a company called Philips Respironics, and they make continuous positive airway pressure, or CPAP, devices to treat sleep apnea. So this video pertains to the DreamStation CPAP device. Now, somewhere at Philips Respironics, at least I hope still at Philips Respironics, there was an engineer. And this engineer had to solve the problem of the fact that when you use something like a fan motor to generate air pressure, that it makes noise. So he searched and did his research, and he found some sound deadening foam, and he put that on the inside of the device. It made it very quiet. Anybody who slept with those devices, myself being one of them, thought they were an exceptionally quiet device and a very good device. They certainly matched my sleep patterns better than anything else I'd ever had up to that point. Well, I've also often said that it is impossible to make anything foolproof because fools are so damned ingenious. And indeed, anytime there is a market for something, there is an opportunity for accessories to that market. And this company called SoClean came up with a device that could be used to sterilize the inner workings of your CPAP device, as well as the inner workings of the tubing, with ozone. Now, ozone kills germs. Everybody knows that. And it can be manufactured through a process where you put a probe down into the water in the CPAP chamber and you turn on the little SoClean device. But this is where everything went wrong, both for the DreamStation folks at Philips Respironics, as well as the folks at SoClean. Because the ozone started to cause that foam to deteriorate. And when foam deteriorates, particularly when you have high airflows through a system, little pieces of it tend to break off. They enter into the airway path, and unfortunately some of them found their way into patient lungs. Now that's not a good situation, obviously. And indeed, there were a number of reports to the FDA about this device. And so, even though the Food and Drug Administration did not require it, Philips did a voluntary recall. That was the right thing to do. Sometimes, no good deed goes unpunished. Almost immediately, they were hit with class action lawsuits. And those class action lawsuits basically alleged that there was, this was negligent, and the use of the foam was negligent, the failure to recognize that ozone would be used with it. All of these things were allegations that were directed at Philips Respironics. Well, I have seen corporations in similar settings simply buckle down and do nothing. They've already been sued. Anything they do at this point is just going to look like they're trying to cover their behind. But Philips Respironics did not do that. They did the right thing for the right reason, because they are an ethical company. And the reason I say they are an ethical company is that people who depend on CPAP devices, those people really need their devices. I know I do. I can't sleep without my CPAP device. And so, or if I do, I wake up with a terrible headache because I don't breathe real well when I sleep. This happens to almost everybody over the age of 40 at some point, and CPAP is a very effective way of dealing with that problem. So instead of bringing back the devices and in the recall and doing nothing about that, what Philips Respironics did was, those of us who had used the SoClean, and unfortunately we did use the SoClean because we thought it was a good solution to cleaning the devices on a daily basis, they brought back all of those devices and they replaced them with the new model, the DreamStation 2. Now, another thing that I always tell people when we're talking about litigation avoidance is that people don't sue people they like. And the same can be said about corporations. People don't sue corporations that they like. And when you do the right thing for the right reason, because you care about the patient's quality of sleep and quality of life, it should inure to your benefit. Now, obviously, the people who had these prior devices, they would have had a cause of action for the money that they spent on that CPAP device, which was at least over $1,000. And there were hundreds of thousands of these devices out there in the marketplace. So you can imagine that that was a fairly significant expense, potentially, and a fairly significant damages amount for Philips Respironics. But because it was such a significant amount, one way they can mitigate their damages is to replace the device with something new, and in this case, something markedly better even than the prior DreamStation device. The reason that is important is because the message that it sent to the patients was, you're important to us, and we want to take care of you. That was the right message to send at the right time. Litigation will sort itself out. Insurance will probably cover some of their losses on the DreamStation, at least as far as their insurance policies cover that kind of thing. But what they have done is they have solidified with their patient base the fact that they really do care about what happens to them. Now, it took a while to get the replacements out, but that was because they had to certify the repairs and replacements through the FDA with regard to what they were going to do. And eventually, it took about 6 months to get this put together and taken care of. In the interim, I put a bacteria filter on both my machine and my wife's machine, and we used the old product without having too much to worry about because the bacteria filter will catch the little pieces of foam, if any, broke off. We never found anything in the filters that indicated that was happening. In fact, I think it's fairly rare that it did happen. And it could very well be related to the particular batch of foam that they used in a particular batch of devices. I don't think even that has been determined yet. But the important thing here is that Philips took care of people when they had the opportunity to do it. And they did so even though it no doubt cost them a fairly large amount of money to do this, on top of what they're probably already paying for their legal defense in those cases. So I want to make sure that people understand that this is atypical. This is not how many companies would respond to this kind of situation. They would probably get advice from their lawyers to keep silent, not make any statements. Whatever you do, don't make any admissions that this product is bad. And they probably would have been advised not to do the voluntary recall unless the FDA made them do the recall, because that was sort of an admission that the product was faulty. Well, it wasn't really an admission that the product was faulty. What it was an admission of is that somebody had tainted the reputation of that particular device. And rather than lose customers to somebody else who would get a device that would be different and not quite as good as the Dream Station, they did the right thing and made these replacements. I'm going to put up on here the address of the Philips Respironics company here in the United States. You can find on their website the addresses in other parts of the world. But I would encourage people to write to Philips Respironics and say thank you. Because when you do something good, you ought to be recognized for it. And even though they had legal risk doing it the way they did it, I think, because they wanted to do the right thing. And there really is no wrong way to do the right thing, but there are plenty of wrong ways to do the wrong thing. So, if you have enjoyed this video, found it interesting, or I told you something maybe that you didn't know already, I would really love it if you'd give me a thumbs up and leave comments down below. And in addition to that, if you haven't already, please go over here and subscribe to our channel. Tap on the notification bell so you can be notified every time we release a video on this channel. Thank you again for watching. Have a terrific day, and I will catch you on here next time.